Hello, Conscious Capitalist listeners. We're pressing pause on our regular episodes for a special summer series. As a part of our summer takeover of the podcast, we'll be exploring the future of the conscious enterprise and dissecting what it will take for businesses to thrive in a world of radical uncertainty. We'll also dive into how conscious capitalism can build more agile, innovative, and resilient companies, and how leaders can reinvent their mindsets. If that sounds like something you need right now or interested in exploring, don't forget to join us. And if the series would be of interest to other CEOs, colleagues, or friends, send them to Apple or Spotify. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this, our latest episode in the Future Focused podcast series. This is a podcast series that leads up to our Cincinnati conference in September. The theme there is the future of the conscious enterprise, and each week we try to highlight, in this case, one of our keynote speakers talking about a critical issue. The critical issue we'll try to address today is, how do you deal with radical uncertainty from both a strategic point of view as well as from a leadership point of view? And joining me this week as my co-host is Dave Patnaik. Dave is a longtime member of the Conscious Capitalist community and a member of our board. He's been the CEO of Jump Associates, a strategy firm for future-focused leaders. And in that capacity, he's been a trusted advisor to CEOs at some of the world's most admired companies, including Starbucks, Target, Nike, Universal Music, and Virgin. Dave is the author of the book, Wired to Care: Why Companies Thrive When They Create Widespread Empathy. Malcolm Gladwell called Wired to Care just what we need for the lean years ahead. When he's not at Jump, Dave is an adjunct professor at Stanford University, where he teaches social science methods to MBA and design students. Welcome, Dave. And this week, we're very fortunate to have Gopi Kallayil, the Chief Business Strategist for AI at Google. And he presents a compelling and optimistic vision of artificial intelligence as what he describes the most profound technologies ever created by human beings. Now, he is not only a longtime veteran of many different parts of Google, but before that, he was on the management team of two Silicon Valley venture-funded startups. He was also a McKinsey consultant. And in addition to all of that, he received two management degrees, one from the Indian Institute of Management, and another from another place over here called the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. And perhaps what he's best known for being is the happy human. So in addition to being an avid yoga practitioner and teacher, he's also a triathlete, a public speaker, global traveler, and a Burning Man devotee. He's just back from his 19th burn. He's spoken at TEDx, the World Happiness Summit, and he's the author of two books, The Happy Human and The Internet to the Inner Net. He's released two music albums titled Kirtan Lounge, and he's a guest faculty position at Stanford University Graduate School of Business. A man who's just got nothing in his CV that catches your attention. Gopi, thank you so much for joining us today.
But he's yet to build a conscious business.
There you go. I love it.
He works for one. He works for one.
Yeah. So what I'd love to do is start off with, we have this whole theme of radical uncertainty, right? We have, on the one level, global economic scale. Who knows what's happening with supply chains, with tariffs, recession, not recession, US dollar up, down, really uncertain. And then we have all the technological disruption. And it's not just AI, it's quantum computing and blockchain and nanotechnology and robotics and material science and life science and biotech, and these things playing together. So massive disruption. And I guess against that landscape of disruption and your role at Google, sitting there, strategist for AI, what do you see as the landscape for how businesses are going to have to maybe shift or change as they face this kind of radical disruption?
So first of all, Timothy, Dave, thank you so much for that warm welcome and introduction. When there is this kind of radical disruption, there can be cause for concern or actually cause for celebration. And I say this is the time for celebration. One of the earliest lessons I learned from Google founder Larry Page, co-founder Larry Page, was in times of change, there is tremendous amount of opportunity. It makes you uncomfortable. It's also exciting. And he would say, be uncomfortably excited, because it's those moments of being uncomfortably excited. We emerge with new business models and cause rapid disruption, rapid change, and actually humanity benefits. We solve problems in a way that we could not have solved otherwise. Let me give you a perfect example. If you look at personal transportation, the convenience and ease with which we navigate around cities around the world, where we use this as a remote control, you click on it twice and a car shows up at your door within 5 minutes. It actually tells you who is coming, what kind of car, and it'll be there 4 minutes at your door. And then it tells you when you'll be dropped off. And when you get off, you don't pay, you don't fumble for credit cards, and you exit. We didn't have that 10 years ago. So that kind of opportunity only comes with nonlinear thinking. When Travis Kalanick, when he started Uber, said there is Google Maps that gives you direction. There's this device that everyone's carrying. So is the driver. There are all these cars driving around with one person. Connect all of these, and a new form of personal transportation got created. And what is only available to the super wealthy or chauffeur-driven car is now available to everyone. It is that kind of opportunity that always happens when you have this moments of technology-based disruption and uncertainty.
Gopi, one thing I really love about talking to you about this is because you have seen this firsthand. For those who don't know, Google actually developed the original transformer technology on which most large language models are based today. And yet it was not them, it was OpenAI who put out ChatGPT. And then Google itself had to go through kind of like a code red to re-steer the entire company. So you went through one of these massive shifts. When Google says you need to change, I would argue they know this because they've had to do this themselves, right? You talk a bit about that experience of shifting a whole organization, because you've experienced it firsthand.
Yeah. So that kind of change constantly happens. In fact, one of the things that, again, the Google founders have constantly articulated to the company when they were around, and it still continues in the culture, is a very healthy dose of paranoia, in that we could easily get disrupted. They would often say that 50 years from now, there will be no Google. It would have been out-Googled away, out-Googled by someone. And that someone is not one of the big companies that we know. We, of course, fear all that competition from Microsoft or Apple and Meta, etc., formidable. But there's probably two girls who graduated from Stanford recently and sitting in a garage tinkering away on a piece of technology that we haven't even heard of. That could be the next disruptive technology that might make consumers go away from Google. So there is that constant fear that we have to keep innovating and doing things. And the examples you mentioned, OpenAI is one example, but there are so many other startup companies, and you could suddenly hear of DeepSeek or Manus from China that no one even knew existed. That who knew that a hedge fund would work on AI technology and come up with very quickly a cheaper version of a model that was disruptive. So that kind of change is to be expected, and it has happened. And one thing that Google is very good, I feel, is like staying focused and then pivoting quickly. When the company started, the focus of the founders and the whole company was, let's make the internet easily usable, discoverable, and we are a search-first company. 2007, they had to shift it again and said, we are a mobile-first company, or mobile mobile-first company, and make all of the platforms shift to the mobile, Maps, YouTube, etc., because consumers were making that shift. And then in 2000, as early as 2016, when Sundar Pichai, the current CEO, took over, he declared that we are an AI-first company. So we have done all of those kind of pivots multiple times. And I don't think this will be the last. There could be other technologies coming, and consumers also change the behavior. And you have to adapt and go meet the consumer where they want to be met. So this is, when you go into this industry, you're choosing to operate in that mode constantly. And I think it's healthy. Ultimately, the consumer benefits from it.
Well, I love that description because, you're Google, and yes, that's the world you live in where there's constant change. And for a lot of businesses and industries, now is the first time they're being confronted with this constant change. They've all now got to think like Google. Well, it's one thing to say that, it's another thing to be able to act that way. And I'm curious, when you look at the Google experience and you say, well, what are some of those things that are in our culture or in our DNA that helps us to be able to pivot like that or to think and find that fine line between paranoia, fear, and excitement? Because, we know that fear paralyzes us. Excitement can get us motivated to go do things, but it's a fine line. You found that way of doing that. And I'm wondering for the rest of the mere mortals out there, what do they start thinking about in terms of how they evolve that capability?
Well, the first is a spirit of constant experimentation and testing and iterating. Often we don't even know what is the next great thing that'll work or what consumers will embrace. So there's a philosophy of test and iterate, where we launch something, see how the consumers respond to it, or it's internally tested, and keep iterating and constantly looking at the feedback. So if you're a product manager at Google, for example, the most important feature is the product feedback link or button that's there in the product. Every piece of feedback is actually read. I remember when I was on the product team, every Monday would start with a meeting led by the product manager. It was like the general manager. The entire product team, all functions from the internationalization person to the product marketing team members would all be there. And an analyst would summarize all of the consumer feedback that would come in. And based on that, they prioritize how the product had to ship. So you have to be prepared to do that constant iteration. Another big part of the philosophy of what I found unique to Google that does not exist in many other companies, and actually when you shift countries and cultures, it becomes even harder to follow this, is fail well. Most products that we build at Google actually fail. You don't even know about them. Some are public failures. We put it out like a Google Glass or Google Plus. But there are many products that you don't even see that failed. I think thousands of products get tried, launched internally, externally, and most of them don't make it. Of all of the thousands of products Google has done in its history, 7 now have 2 billion consumers and 15 have 500 million or more consumers, but 7 have 2 billion or more people using it, which is remarkable. But for that 7, there were 7,000 that must have been tried in its history that failed. So failure is not a stigma. It's actually a badge of honor at Google. It's celebrated. We have a Day of the Dead when failed products are put up on a pedestal and say, we are killing these products. And the product team stand up and say, we learned something from this. Here's something we can salvage and take to the next great innovation. And I'll give you an example. 4 years of my life I spent on Google Plus, and ultimately, you could say it failed. It was withdrawn. But there are 2 products that have emerged from it, from Google Plus, among many others, a piece of technology that were extracted that are now market-beating products. Google Photos, which has gone more than 500 million users, and probably the premier photo storage editing product that consumers use, came out of Google Plus. Google Meet, the video conferencing capability that we now use, actually was a sub-feature of the Google Plus social media platform. So we say at Google, we don't actually fail, we morph into something else. But we would never have spotted that opportunity unless we had tried the other things. And the final piece of it is there's a mentality here, even as we work on a core business that drives our existing business, a search, YouTube, Maps, etc. We're also thinking of what could be a 10x innovation that might work in the future. 10x innovation, the philosophy there is don't simply think of 10% improvements, because then you'll only do incremental improvements. Your search, you make it a little better. You'll make your YouTube a little better. But think of 10x, solve a problem where something becomes 10 times faster, 10 times cheaper, or disruptive way of doing. And it's that kind of nonlinear thinking that the 10x mentality brings that leads to a way more self-driving car.
I think that's great, especially when we talk about Google Plus or we're talking about Google Maps. What we're talking about with artificial intelligence is an entirely different scale, right, of impact that we're having. And I know many people are really excited about this opportunity, and they have the same reaction that Larry Page has encouraged everyone to do. There are a large number of smart, well-informed people who are terrified, right? If you talk to Stuart Russell, who's, leads the computer science department at Berkeley, the guy who wrote the textbook on AI, he says there's exactly 0% chance that this will end well for humanity, period. Right, that the most likely outcome of artificial intelligence is a Chernobyl level event, is what he's talking about. So what do you say, or what does Google say, that in the midst of all that, yeah, okay, this technology will help me craft a letter, but we might all die too. Don't worry about it. Because part of what you have to do is kind of make people comfortable with that.
So I'll give you my personal perspective. So this is my personal viewpoint on the topic. Humans, in our entire time of existence, have built tools. This is what we do. For the last 12,000 years, since we first started agriculture, we went from being hunter-gatherers to farming, and created the first tools to plow fields or dig up tuber roots, etc. We've always created tools. And we create tools to solve problems. And the reason humans do this is our bias is to build tools that solve problems that improve the human condition. So AI happens to be yet another tool, but it's a slightly different tool, or dramatically different tool from many of the tools we built, in that the previous tools amplified our physical capability.
Mm-hmm.
For example, humans learn to crawl, then we learn to walk, then we learn to run, and we hit our limits. There's only so far, so fast we can go. Till somebody created a bicycle where you use the same pair of legs you use for running, a different way. Now you can go further and faster than you've ever gone before. The most important capability humans have is our cognitive capability, because this is what generates ideas. This is what comes up with symbolic logic, language, music, creativity, all that comes from this tool. And we are the only species that have developed it to such an advanced level. And it's remarkable what we've done with this cognitive capability, which is what led to this Post-it technology, a piece of glue that sticks to things and yet does not permanently stick, which, by the way, is a result of failure. Scott Silver was trying to actually, at 3M, create a glue that would be so sticky you could never pry off. He ended up creating a thing that would stick to nothing and could have been a product, yet he came up with the Post-it pad, one of the most successful consumer products ever.
Gopi, you're so right. I totally agree. But like the AI, the kind of extinction level events that people are talking about is a little bit more than a Post-it pad.
So first of all, that's the exciting portion. So we're creating a tool that'll amplify our cognitive capability, and therefore it'll create tremendous opportunity in every field. It's going to change music. It's going to change medicine. It's going to change manufacturing. It'll allow us to solve problems in a way that we could not have solved before, like what the AlphaFold team did with protein folding. Traditional biology would have taken 1 billion years to solve for all 200 million proteins in nature. And yet AlphaFold team in 4 years created the AlphaFold database and have open sourced it. And now professional biologists are going to use it to solve for problems on plant, animal, and human health that we could not have done before. Now, there's risks with it. That's there with every tool. Right now where you're sitting, believe it or not, you're sitting right next to one of the most dangerous things humans have discovered. It's electricity. It's there in the
there you go.
table behind you. It's in the lab. It's under your and yet we let our kids play with things. We sleep with blankets that have electricity running through them, electric blankets. It's such a dangerous piece of technology that we use it for capital punishment, the electric chair. And you come into contact with it, it's instant death. And yet we are surrounded by electricity. It's in the walls. It drove my car. It brought me up in the elevator because we put checks and balances in working with the technology. So this is something of enormous faith on. Yes, there are risks with AI, but so are with aircrafts and with a car. You put a car in the hands of humans. Most people will use it for transporting people and goods. Occasionally, a person sees a car at a crowded marketplace, it gets a little deranged, and you've seen the consequences of a slightly different behavior. So every technology that risk runs, but humans are very good at building checks and balances. The arc of humanity bends towards good. And we are yet to build it because this is such an early technology. You mentioned atomic energy. That's where we have the Atomic Energy Commission. We have regulatory forces and multiple levels of checks and balances to prevent a Chernobyl level disaster. Um, but will a Chernobyl level disaster happen? Occasionally it does. Things do go wrong, but that's always been the case with everything, with electricity, with aircraft. It does with fire. And a fire can cook your food, smelt your steel. It can cook you if you misuse it, if you get into an accident. But look at the level of safety that we built, that we are now comfortable going up in a building that's 200 stories tall and not worry about fire because we feel there is enough checks and balances. We even have people trained in every city in the world who watch 24/7 and are waiting to respond to a situation. We don't yet quite have for that for AI, but that will get built, give it enough time. This is why I feel reassured that we can work with this technology that has a potential for great good, does have risks with it. I will not deny that. But can we agree collectively that let's manage the risks so that we can use it for great purposes and acknowledge that there will be amongst us all a devious mind that'll say, how can I use this technology to cause damage? But that is not the problem of the technology. It's more a lack of consciousness. And since you guys build conscious communities and conscious business, I would say, Dave, Timothy, it's your responsibility.
See how he turned that around on us, Timothy?
Exactly.
Well, I'm going to turn
back
it
to
right
us.
back. I'm going to turn it right back on him because you are the guy that's helping Google's clients figure out what their AI business strategy ought to be. And you're a former McKinsey consultant, and now you're at Google. And is that even an oxymoron when you say AI strategy for business? I mean, how does a company start to think about that when we're in such a chaotic period? You know, I was listening to a New York bank make a presentation, and they showed us this ecosystem map, and it was mad. There were just so many businesses, and they were saying, we don't know who to work with. And we believe 90% of those businesses are going to be gone in the next 12 to 24 months. What does it mean when you work with Google's clients and trying to help them figure out what the quote unquote AI strategy might be?
So I have meetings with the leaders of our biggest clients almost every week. And Timothy, one of the first questions I will get when I walk into the meeting is, help us think through what should our AI strategy be? And you're right. You asked me if it is an oxymoron. My response to that is, I refuse to answer that question. I refuse to answer.
Consultant's answer. It depends.
It's a short meeting, I guess, right?
No. I say that to be purposely provocative. I say that is the wrong question to answer. The question I want to ask you, if you are, Timothy, or the CEO of some client I'm meeting, let's say in the travel business, on the insurance business, I want to know, what is your business strategy? And once I know your business strategy, I'll help you figure out how to use AI to enable it. Okay, because the classic mistake companies are making, and this is why the struggle you're seeing, and my job is to turn them in their thinking, is if you try to come up with what should an AI strategy, you will end up in the wrong place. You will look at these many startups building different small pieces of AI solutions and then say, I need to implement it. This is like saying a new tool is being sold by Home Depot. I buy the tool, take it home and say it's a new kind of drill. Watch just the hole I should drill be. Instead, I want to be, if I'm the interior decorator, I will give you advice and say, you don't even need to drill holes. You need a new carpet and you need plants. Painting on the wall. So that is the flipping. I'll give you a perfect analogy. When I change this, when I change the question, the thinking changes. So I met with the CEO and leadership team of one of the big mobile phone companies. And when I posed the question, the CEO paused for a while and he said this, Gopi, I don't have a problem with my marketing. My marketing is very good. I attract customers. My problem is in keeping them. The churn is very high. But when customers churn, they don't simply leave in a hurry. They think about it for a while. So if Dave is going to abandon me as a customer, I can observe it from his behavior in the way he navigates a website, in the way he talks to the call center agent, in the way he tries out new products or goes to the store. And there are these breadcrumbs. If AI can help me stitch together these breadcrumbs and tell me that Dave is going to leave in 90 days and all the other people are going to leave me in the next 90 days, I can do something to stop them. And AI
This is a hypothetical. I'll never leave you, Gopi. But okay, but yes, keep going.
I mean, if you abandon my Timothy's cell phone service. And
Well, there you go. Yes.
do
Sorry.
something-
Yes. Timothy's cell service, I've actually already switched over to Verizon. But that's
especially since he can't even call you by name. Who would want to do
that's
business?
right. Yeah, yes, exactly.
He does not know you.
That's right.
Well, I love that.
I'll
And
cancel my trip to Minneapolis, Cincinnati, by the way.
yeah, well, what I find really interesting is that, and I'll take banking as an example, right? At one level, all of the core processes will be commoditized. Everybody will be processing a mortgage in 2 minutes. And they'll use AI to do that. And any bank will have to have that as core table stakes to be there. But then you raise a really interesting question, which is, in a sense, where's your competitive advantage going to be? And how, in that sense, can AI be used to enhance or amplify that?
Yeah, I'll give you a simple example. Take Amazon. 35% of the sales actually comes from one salesperson. And when I say salesperson, I'm exaggerating to make a point. But it is their AI-powered recommendation engine that when you go to shop on Amazon, innocuously tells you, you may also want to buy. People who bought this also bought this, right? That nudge increases the basket size by about 35%. That's a very strategic way of using AI. Or take Netflix. And I've heard that the average consumer spends something like 20 minutes trying to find the next thing to watch. But their AI-powered algorithm is so good in recommending what you should watch based on your past viewing preferences and based on what people who have a profile like you're watching. They've shortened the time to about 2 or 3 minutes. That's a dramatic change. People are spending more time watching rather than searching for the next movie to watch. If you go to a typical product-based website of any company that sells a number of products with a big catalog, the search, whether you can discover the exact item you need, is a big differentiator. If you don't, consumers will never find the item. They'll actually be guided to the wrong item. And there are plenty of websites, I won't name them, where if I search for things, it should know I'm a man and it's showing me like women's shoes or bags, etc. Right? And right there is a mess. And if you can improve those kind of consumer experiences and AI can help you, it's going to make a dramatic difference. And this is where you need to figure out how to use AI to enable your strategy as opposed to simply chasing the next shiny object. And a lot of companies I see trying out, say, an image generation tool just because it seems cool, or conversational-based AI, because that's what most people are used to using. They've used one of the tools that you mentioned. They've had a conversation with an AI bot. So they'll implement it for customer service, which is not bad, but that might not be a most strategic use of AI. If you're an insurance company, you should be really trying to insure the most high-value insurance customers, which in this case, Timothy, it is you and not Dave, because of who's got a higher propensity or lower propensity to get into an accident. And we all know about Dave's behavior here, so that's why I said.
Oh, for sure. That's right. Where a Waymo was built for me, I feel safer. For those of us who live in San Francisco and can drive in one of Google's Waymo cars, I feel much safer in a Waymo than I feel when I'm driving. Quite honestly, now because it's more polite too as a driver, more considerate. Gopi, I do want to ask you. Okay, we've talked about Google. We've talked about the transformations that Google have gone through, right? We've talked about leaning into opportunity, right? And not being terrified by it. We talked a bit about AI and the potential of it, and then the dangers of it, but then also what to do in terms of business strategy for the kind of clients that you engage with. There's another part of this that comes in, and it's you as beyond your work at Google, you're an author of several books. right? The internet and the internet, right? You've written now about the happy human. And it seems like you've had a parallel life where, yes, you were doing great work helping figure out technology strategy. But on the other side of it, you've been on an inward journey, right? And we are conscious capitalists. And with AI, it seems like what are you learning about? Are those two different paths in your life? Are they coming together? Because should be teaching us more about the nature of consciousness as we're doing there. Are you, just for you personally, are you seeing these things coming together for you?
So I'm actually in the process of writing a third book with the Harvard Business School professor. It's going to be on how AI is going to create disruptive business models and what are the opportunities that will emerge. So still coming, hopefully in the future.
And business models is fine, but like I'm talking about like changing yourself and your psyche, right?
I gave a talk at Stanford last November at the Memorial Church. And the talk is called about IDINI, AIDINA. It is part of a conference that Stanford had put out called Contemplation by Design. It was done by both the design school in conjunction with, I think, the chaplains. There's a group of chaplains that looks at the inner life of students and helps with that. So they did a joint conference. I gave a talk, and the talk title was IDINI, which is a play on three acronyms, AI, DI, and NI. NI standing for natural intelligence, that unique capability that humans have, which is what has led to consciousness and that kind of thinking. AI stands for artificial intelligence, and DI stands for divine intelligence. And I define that as the sense of connection with something larger than ourselves, this wonder and mystery at this gigantic universe where we are this tiny planet, seemingly thinking we are the only ones and we are the lords, but in some level, just so tiny and insignificant in a planet that's estimated to have several trillion stars like our sun. And here we are right now sitting on this planet hurtling around the sun, even as we spin around the entire solar system. So there is something bigger than ourselves than we can even contemplate. My brain is not big enough to hold it. So I think of all of those linkages, and somewhere in the midst of it is this term that you defined called consciousness. And actually in the book, The Happy Human, I have pondered on this question: does AI have consciousness? Will it have consciousness? And I did talk to one of the scientists here and had an interesting discussion, which I talk about in the book. I don't know if I have a clear answer on that, Dave, other than saying as a human being and in my contemplative practice, as much as I spent 2 years or 4 years at business school, I've spent in roughly equivalent amount of time in monastic settings, so places where there is more reflection. In November, I'm going to be at the Shivananda Ashram in Bahamas, speaking on this topic. I'm going to be doing a 3-day workshop on going from artificial intelligence to your inner intelligence. So my thesis here is the most superior form or one of the most important form of intelligence that we human beings carry is our natural intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a product of our natural intelligence, much like it's a tool that humans created over a period of time. It has got plastic and metal and ink and the concept of writing built into it. Artificial intelligence is also a tool that came out of a natural intelligence. And you mentioned the transformer model, and there's machine learning and neural networks. All of that was created because humans use the natural intelligence. I find it astonishing that you can look at a beach full of sand, and for other species, it's a surface to crawl on or surface to build your dwelling or to peck for food. We look at sand and we create intelligence out of it. Artificial intelligence really, at some level, is based on a bed of sand because it runs on silicon, and silicon is extracted from sand. And that comes out of a natural intelligence. But what kind of artificial intelligence we build, how we'll behave, etc., in some ways is determined by what you term as consciousness. And that's what I refer to as a connection with a divine intelligence. I will discuss this in Cincinnati, and you can challenge me on that.
Yes, I love it.
It's a fascinating topic. Awesome.
And to wrap it up, thank you so much, Gopi and Dave. What a fascinating discussion about how we try to deal with an important topic like AI and the disruption that we're seeing in the marketplace and for businesses and for leaders. Appreciated that enormously. And we'll look forward to having Gopi as one of our keynote speakers at our Cincinnati event, which is coming up on the 24th, 25th, and 26th of September. I think you'll find that it's a fascinating day of delving into this whole issue of how do we deal with radical uncertainty from a leadership point of view, from a strategic point of view, and from a culture point of view. If you want to register for that, then please go over to consciouscapitalism.org/future25. That's consciouscapitalism.org/future25. And we'll hope to see you in Cincinnati.